Eisenhower-era program that used military tactics to round up and remove migrant workers. And we're starting to get a clearer picture of just what that might look like. NBC News is reporting that the Trump transition team is looking into available space in county jails and assessing which areas might need temporary facilities to detain migrants as part of the mass deportation plan. Stephen Miller, who will be Trump's deputy chief of staff, has proposed sending National Guard troops from red states to blue ones to enforce federal policy. And Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan, has said it includes deporting families that include American citizens. And earlier today, Matt Gaetz was nominated as Attorney General. He now gets to lead the agency that helps establish the legal framework governing the immigration process. But for those concerned that the party of states' rights and family values is threatening to send federal troops to states that don't comply with orders to separate or deport families that could include American citizens, rest assured, the private prison industry's gains can ease your worries. Who needs decency and compassion when holding facility stocks are soaring? Republicans have now won control of the House, meaning they will fully own the consequences of Trump's policies, at least until the midterms. And that federal trifecta means that the 15 Democratic trifectas at the state level will serve as one of the only bulwarks against Trump's agenda. Today, in an effort to solidify that resistance, Democratic state governors and mayors launched a new effort dubbed Governors Safeguarding Democracy. And joining me now is Governor JB Pritzker of Illinois, co-chair of Governors Safeguarding Democracy. NBC News reports that Trump's plan to potentially build additional detention centers would indeed include the city of Chicago. Governor Pritzker, thank you for being here. Let's talk about that. Can the state of Illinois prevent the federal government from building internment camps, a.k.a. what they're calling detention facilities in Chicago?
Well, we have prohibited by law in the state of Illinois the use of any of our existing county jails or prisons for the purpose of rounding people up and detaining them. I want to be clear that there are certain circumstances in which the federal government, state governments should work together to allow deportation. An example would be somebody who's been convicted of a violent crime. But they're talking about rounding up people who are law-abiding, undocumented immigrants in this country, many of whom are working, paying taxes, not getting any benefits for those taxes, I might add. And we have a law on the books in the state of Illinois called the Trust Act, which prohibits our local law enforcement and sheriffs and the like from coordinating with the federal authorities. But we cannot prohibit them, federal law enforcement, from coming into our state to conduct raids or do anything else like that. Meanwhile, I think it would be very difficult for them to just spread out across the country. They don't have enough manpower within the Department of Homeland Security in order to carry that out. So, look, I'm going to do everything that I can to protect our undocumented immigrants. They're residents of our state. And I also obviously need to make sure that whatever they're doing in our state, the federal government, that it is actually within federal law or state law for them to do it.
Is there, I mean, in the state of Illinois, is there federal property that a Trump administration could simply say, we don't care what you say and what your laws say, Governor Pritzker, we're going to use that federal property to build internment camps in your state?
As far as I'm concerned, there is nothing like that in the state of Illinois. What I mean to say is that when we had the problem of the very inhumane shipping of migrants from the state of Texas to Illinois, I, of course, went to the federal government and said, well, we need a place to put them because we may run out of places. Can you provide us with locations that the federal government may own that we could use? And there really isn't anything like it. So you can imagine in a situation of, detainment and mass deportation would be, there isn't anything that exists like that.
Let me go through this. These are the 15 states that have Democratic trifectas, meaning Democrats control both houses of the legislature as well as the governorship. And Illinois ranks 4th on that list after California, New York, and New Jersey. Illinois has about 400,000 known undocumented people. And the economic impact of trying to force the removal of those people, 30% of construction trades, such as plasterers, roofers, and painters, are alleged to be undocumented. 28% of graders and sorters of agricultural products, 25% of housekeeping cleaners. We could go on. It would cost your state a great deal of money, and it would cost your economy, I would assume, a lot if these workers were ripped out of Illinois, no?
That's true. And again, as I said earlier, many of these folks are working today. They are paying taxes.
All of these are working. Everyone that I just mentioned are working, right?
That's right. And so they're paying taxes and not getting any benefits from it. So, frankly, the taxes that are getting paid are of, great interest, you can imagine, to the country and to the state of Illinois. But look, I think it's important for us to recognize here that what the federal government is looking to do at this point looks like it may be unconstitutional. Now, we will see. We've got attorneys general that are working on these kinds of issues within the courts, but we governors need to share ideas across state lines. We have a Trust Act, for example. There are other states that don't. You talked about 15 states that have trifectas. Don't forget that that governors in other states that don't have a trifecta still have executive orders that they can carry out.
Sure.
And that is very valuable. And being able to share these ideas between one state and another, I think, is a hugely beneficial thing in this moment. Now, I also want to say we're going to work with the Trump administration on other issues. I'm sure there are things we might be able to work together on. But the fact is that this governor's organization that we put together is intended to allow us to get the best ideas, not just from each other, but from outside organizations, to make sure we're addressing the most serious violations that we think might be coming from the federal government.
I just want to know for our audience that mass deportation will cost more than building 40,450 new elementary schools in communities around the country, constructing more than 2.9 million new homes in communities, funding the Head Start program for nearly 79 years, buying a brand new car for 20.4 million people. So it is an expensive proposition. And I guess the last question I'll ask is, you mentioned potential litigation. Do you have confidence in the United States Supreme Court that they would push back on or overrule a Trump administration, given that John Roberts has already ruled that Donald Trump would have unlimited powers?
I don't have full confidence in that, but I must say that, I'm hopeful. We don't know how they will react to some of these policies that have never been seen before in the United States. So, I'm hopeful, but I'm not sure I could count on it.
Yeah.
Again, attorneys general are going to be dealing with the courts. The governors here, we have the ability to enforce the law, to make sure that we're passing laws and putting them in place, and executive orders. And those things we are working very hard on right now.
Yeah, my only challenge to you, sir, would be that it has happened in the United States before, when Japanese Americans were interned under the Roosevelt administration. So I think the fears of a lot of people are that they could simply use the same laws.
I'm talking about the breadth of the problem that I think we're facing has never been seen before. You're right about mass deportations or about internment.
Eisenhower.
I'm simply pointing out that the number of areas that we will be under attack around is, a plethora that we've never seen before.
Well, we are glad to see that governors are stepping up to try to protect people. Governor JB Pritzker, thank you very much.